Welcome, dear viewers, to Couch Warrior TV on YouTube. I am the Couch Warrior, and this is the Unbound Workshop. This video series is the companion to the Character Crusade Unbound podcast, and in each episode we explore Skyrim roleplay concepts and ideas through actual gameplay. Season 1 of the podcast is called Random Skyrim Roleplay, and our character is Raiden, the Ashaba Undead Slayer. I would also like to mention that the podcast has officially been launched. We are starting the podcast with 3 complete episodes for your enjoyment. Those episodes are available on YouTube and iTunes, both. Now, iTunes, as of the making of this video, iTunes is currently indexing those. My guess is that you'll be able to find them on iTunes by, obviously you can search for Unbound. We're also going to have links to those on the website. So you can go to charactercrusade.com and you will find links to all 3 of our podcasts right from the homepage. So you can check those out. You can listen to the episodes as well. The audio and video versions are all linked from the website, so that's a quick and easy way to get to them as well. How you take in the content is up to you. Depends on what you like, don't like. I don't know. None of my business. All right. So we got a lot to do. And chief among the things that we got to do is get our asses back to Riften. So we need to report back to the Dawn Guard and let them know what happened. We've had our
see me when you get bored, stranger.
Encounter with Serana. So we're going to go back and report that. All right. So this is going to be primarily
Palace. It is a sight to see.
a travel episode, but that's fine. Traveling's good. Gives us time to chat, figure things out. We'll encounter some stuff along the way, too. That'll be good. So, no worries. All right. All right, before we get too far here, let's see about starting a rundown of what has gone on up to this point. I'm going to try to get you all caught up because we are starting this playthrough at level 20, so a fair number of things have happened. As I mentioned in the previous episode, you can always go to charactercrusade.com and you can see the blog post for the previous 3 play sessions. That'll give you the abbreviated or the Cliff Notes version of what has taken place to this point. So, the whole idea behind this series is a random start. And random start in this game can be achieved using Skyrim Unbound. And nicely enough, Skyrim Unbound is available for Legacy Skyrim, for Skyrim Special Edition, and it's available on consoles as well, or Xbox for sure. I can't be sure about PlayStation. So there's an SKSE version of Unbound, and then it also works fine without it. So either way, and there's a whole bunch of settings in there. What we did is kind of left the default settings. We kind of set it up to be random. And the objective was, let's create a random character and just see what happens. See where we end up, see what kind of gear we have, and see what kind of role play we can put together based on what the mod gives us. And what it gave me was a Red Guard. And when Raiden came into the game, he appeared in Eastmarch. In particular, he was in an area of Eastmarch that was, you know, kind of right in the middle of the wasteland. There's a giant camp there. And not far from the giant camp is a smashed wagon and a dead Khajiit in a hunter's camp. He ended up in the hunter's camp. And so my goal was to basically do a 360, take a look at what was around me, and try to piece together some kind of story for how he got there. Now, this story is covered in detail in the podcast. So if you want a detailed version of kind of how I put the pieces together, you can check out episode 1 of the Unbound podcast. But the basics are that he is raised as an Ashaba warrior by his mother, who is a Ashaba priestess. She dies. He travels to Skyrim. And he travels to Skyrim because of his understanding that there are things going on in Skyrim that may be of interest to him. He is a warrior who was born and raised for a specific purpose, and that is to battle the undead. And so he's looking for his place in the world. He's trying to figure out what his calling in life is. Hang on here.
I've been looking for you. Got something I'm supposed to deliver.
I've got a gray-faced courier. Not going to give me anything?
I've been looking for you. Got something I'm supposed to deliver. Your hands only. Let's see here. There's a new museum opening up in Dawnstar. The owner is asking me to hand out invitations to travelers. Looks like that's it. Got to go.
All right. No worries on the gray-faced courier. The gray-faced courier is specifically caused by a mod that I'm currently working on, so I'm not too worried about that. That is going to be specific to my game and should not be a problem in anyone else's. So he's trying to carve out a place for himself in the world. Doesn't have a ton of life experience. So he comes to Skyrim. Now that is obviously a vampire. But she's not messing with us. So we're not going to mess with her. And this goes back to the idea we discussed in the last episode about him not being a crusader against the undead. All right? He's not like the Dawn Guard in that way, where he ruthlessly hunts down and kills the undead. He will do so if the undead are a threat. And he's particularly good at it because he's been trained to do it. But obviously, for him to get this far into the story, he had to meet Serana and escort her to her father, which he did. And that was part of my justification for handling that situation the way I did. Let's get a little breakfast. Something weird. Oh, who did we drop? What you got? Ooh, I'll take that. It's a weird assortment of stuff. Okay. So, the high-level bullet points would be, he arrives in Eastmarch. He makes his way to Whiterun. He visits the House of the Dead there in Whiterun. He travels to Falkreath. Having spoken to the priest of Arkay in Whiterun, he learns that there is a high elf named Runil in Falkreath who is also a priest of Arkay, and he recognizes the name Runil as his biological father, whom he's never actually met. And he has a staff in his possession that his mother instructed him to deliver to his father. And his assumption is that the reason that she asked him to do this is not because the staff was valuable, but because she wanted her son to finally just lay eyes on her biological father and know who this person was. And that was, I think, a consequence of her understanding that she was going to die and not wanting him to be completely alone in the world. However, he did meet Runil, he did deliver the staff, but he never revealed to Runil that he was his biological child. He just doesn't really care about it that much. He has no connection to Runil. It's a matter of curiosity for him, not a specific need he has, and he has no hole in his heart because he's never known his father. He seems to be pretty well adjusted, so right now it's not playing a major factor in who he is or what he's doing. However, he did complete a quest for Runil. Runil had misplaced a valuable journal. And so we traveled to Bloated Man's Grotto and retrieved that for Runil, delivered it back to him, and then made our way back to Whiterun. From there, it was off to Riften. No. From Whiterun, it was Danica Pure Spring. We did a job for Danica Pure Spring and took care of the Gildergreen tree. We did that whole thing. All right, we went and got Nettlebane. We went and got the sap. And that has been actually really important because one of the things that is the focus of this character is getting levels in his ability with restoration. And the intent with restoration is not that he's going to spend a lot of time casting restoration spells, because that's not a priority, but that I want to acquire some of the innate abilities that come from restoration as part of the Ordinator perk overhaul. So that's pretty important. Now we'll probably get into more detail on what it is about restoration that's attractive. Obviously, if you're an undead hunter, it makes a lot of sense. But he's not going to be really a spell-focused character. There are, however, some abilities inside the restoration tree that are particularly attractive. So not being a restoration spellcaster, we are really reliant on trainers to help us get up levels. Which is great, because having completed a job for the Temple of Kine and restored the tree, we have access to that priestess as a trainer now in restoration. Eventually, we will also have a restoration trainer available to us in Fort Dawnguard as well. Now, there's some more we have to do in order to get to that point, but we'll get there. And then we'll be able to get our levels in restoration and continue to move up in that area. All right. Now, there was a question in the comments last episode. This is a pretty common question. Pretty much this question is asked several times in every series I've ever produced. What's your mod list? A lot of times I'm resistant to creating mod lists because, frankly, it's boring and it's busy work. But in a series like this, I understand that we're going to be talking a lot about mods, so mod list is going to be important. And I am planning to put together a mod list. It is not done yet. It'll be done when it's done, but rest assured that I will get it out there so everyone can review it. All right, let's do a quick save here. All right, we've been through this area before. Now, last time I came through this area, I had Serana in tow, and we were trying to get her home. So I'm familiar with this area. So as I said, took care of the tree, and during the course of taking care of the tree, I ran across Goldir, helped him out with the family tomb. There's a lot of details and nuance here I'm not going to cover that went into the role play, but at that point, we took on Goldir as a follower because the two of these guys seem to have similar goals, you know, to combat the undead menace. Although they have slightly different attitudes and methods for doing so. So we took him on as a follower. We got him some equipment, got him a good sword. And from there, got hooked up with the Dawn Guard, escorted Serana during the course of getting Serana to safety. The three of them cleared out Fort Dunstad and also Fort Snowhawk, and then dropped her off, and then took care of this little job for Meridia, and that kind of gets us up to date. Okay, so the stop off in Solitude was just a resupply before heading back to Riften. So now we're on our way back to Riften. We're going to go back to Fort Dawnguard and tell them what we've learned in Dim Hollow Crypt. We also got to let them know what we found at the Hall of the Vigilant, which is complete destruction. Lots of dead vigilants, some dead vampires as well, but it definitely looks as though the vigilants lost that fight. So we got to go back and tell Isran what's going on with this and see what he says. Now, because Raiden is a Red Guard, I'm also saying that part of his motivation or interest in going to visit the Dawn Guard is when we were originally approached by the Orc Duroc about joining the Dawn Guard, he mentioned that Isran was the person in charge. And while we don't know who Isran is, Raiden would definitely recognize Isran as a Red Guard name. And so that would be intriguing to him. So part of this is, I think, about curiosity, you know. Was part of his initial motivation for going to talk to the Dawn Guard. Also, understanding that they were in the business of taking on the undead. I think he was just as interested in learning more about their methods as he was about understanding more about what they knew about the situation with the undead here in Skyrim. Yeah, we're not going to do that. All right, any more? Any more vermin? All right. There's one up there. Let's see if Goldir will just take care of this with the crossbow. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? All right. So Raiden is not a ranged weapon fighter, but more often than not, it seems like the spirits that fight beside him actually become sort of like ranged weapons. It's quite an advantage having your enemies distracted in combat. It can be a lifesaver, especially when you're playing at higher level difficulties and wearing light armor and so forth, and not investing very much in smithing. At least not now. So the primary skills that I'm investing in with this character at the moment are, as I've mentioned previously, restoration, also blocking, light armor, and two-handed. Those are the primaries right now. Those are the only places that I've invested perk points. Now, as far as attributes go, I have not invested in stamina at all, which may seem a little bit unusual. However, I'm using a full suite of Anai Scion mods, so Imperious Races gives me the racial ability to basically sprint indefinitely as long as I'm not in combat without losing stamina. So you can see right here I'm not losing any stamina. Now, as soon as I get into combat, that bar is going to start to drain. But the fact that, you know, he has this ability made me a little bit less concerned about investing immediately in stamina. I think the time is going to come when I'm going to want to invest in stamina just to help me out in combat so I can do more power attacks and stuff like that. But I think there are a lot of perks in the two-handed tree and in the armor trees and stuff like that that give you benefits to stamina. So for me, I was kind of reluctant to invest in stamina until I'd had a chance to kind of experiment and see what these perks could do, just to determine if it was even going to be necessary for me to invest heavily in stamina. So I've been focusing pretty much exclusively on health. Damn. There, we got him. I've been investing in health and magicka 2-to-1. So for every 2 investments in health, 1 investment in magicka. That's been basically the formula. I've deviated from that slightly, more in favor of health. But that's been kind of the formula that I started with. And I think I'm going to stick with that for a little while longer until I get a better handle on what some of the stamina-based perk abilities are and what sort of effect they're going to have in practical terms. Because there's a lot of those perks that will do things like, you know, reducing the stamina cost of power attacks and stuff like that. And so I think it'd be more interesting to kind of invest in some of those first, which I know that I'm going to do anyway, and then get a truer picture of really what he actually needs in terms of stamina. Because even though I don't plan on casting a lot of restoration spells, there is some advantage in some of these perks I'm going to pick in the restoration tree to having a sizable pool of magicka. So we'll have to see what happens. All right, we are going to be at Windhelm very soon, which will be the a good stopping off point for us to get some rest and get some food and prepare for the next day's continued journey to Riften. But before we do that, let's pause for a word from our sponsor. Inspired by the long tradition of Nord brewing, Draugr Lager brings to you the authentic wallop of days gone by. Draugr Lager is crafted for real warriors and is not intended for gormless, honey-drinking arsemongers. Bring back the bold, musty flavors of the Merethic era with any of our line of ancient Nordic lagers. Made with only the finest and really super extremely old ingredients, Draugr Lager will satisfy even the dustiest of palates. Draugr Lager, the great taste of the undead, with no bitter afterlife. Undead, a little more alive. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to Draugr Lager for sponsoring the Unbound podcast and companion Let's Play. All right, let's just get our asses to Windhelm. Vigilance. They were lucky they weren't at home when all the madness went down. I really got to figure out what that is. Okay. So, as I mentioned in the last episode, I am playing at Master Difficulty currently. Now, when I started this character, I started at Legendary, and I think I'm definitely going to bump it up to Legendary. My plan now is to also put in place the Wildcat Combat Overhaul. I'm easing into that, however. It's much easier. It's much easier to play at the higher level difficulties when you don't have to worry about an audience watching, because it can, you know, if I'm playing on my own, I'm much more tolerant of dying several times and taking several runs at a particular objective in different ways to try and get it how I want it. However, for an audience, it's a different matter. I'm okay with dying once or twice and taking a mulligan and going back, but I don't want to have it happening over and over again, and I don't want to deal with the editing headache of having to edit out a bunch of deaths, stuff like that, or extending an episode by 20 minutes because I've run through the same scenario multiple times. It just gets messy. So I'm kind of easing into it here, but I think we'll get there.
You come here where you're not wanted. You eat our food, you pollute our city with your stink, and you refuse to help the Stormcloaks.
But we haven't taken a side because it's not our fight.
Hey, maybe the reason these Greyskins don't help in the war is because they're Imperial spies.
Imperial spies? You can't be serious.
Maybe we'll pay you a visit tonight. We got ways of finding out what you really are.
Welcome. Let me know if you want anything. I think I've got a clean mug around here, somewhere. My friend died. Things won't be the same without her.
All right, what do you got for sale?
Drink for the thirsty, food for the hungry.
I need... You've got some interesting stuff. I'll try dumpling and a dumpling. One of these. All right, that's good. Now, the other thing is I'm going to refill the water.
Course.
Save me the trouble later. All right.
Sure thing.
Rent a room.
It's yours for a day.
Sure thing.
I'll show you to your room. Right
Not
this
necessary.
way. Let me know if
Move.
there's anything else you need. Perhaps. But still, it's curious.
All right.
Poor
Off we go.
Nilsine has been wrecked since her sister was killed.
All right, let's get a good night's sleep here. We're going to keep it simple. We've got places to go, people to see, stuff to resolve. So we're not going to do a whole bunch of messing around here. It's just about getting a good night's sleep and getting started again in the morning. So let's just do a solid 8. All right. How about we eat that dumpling? Ooh. Apple. Some water. All right.
Make it quick. Yes, I haven't got all day.
Oh, pardon me. Was I in your way?
All right. Let us get moving. Now, let's see. We just finished episode 3 of the podcast. And in that episode, we set our next level cap. And so the level cap for episode 3, the idea there was to try and hit a minimum of level 18. I made it to high 19, low 20. I'm going to give myself the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say I made it to low 20s because that's what I was at when we started this up.
My heart goes out to Clan Shatty Shield.
Shut up.
Been murdered.
So
Family Warhammer stolen.
what we need to do is get some levels in because the maximum for the last time around was 22 to, let's see, it was, I think, I got to look.
I've
Bear
been
with
looking
me.
for you. Got something I'm supposed to deliver.
Again?
Your hands only.
I don't want
Let's
it.
see here. Looks like that's it. Got to go.
All right. That may be my mod running amok. I don't know. All right, damn it. I can never remember these level caps. All right, so I'm going out to the Discord site, having a look here. Okay. So the episode 3 level caps were Drop Dead was 18, minimum was 20, maximum was 22. And by Drop Dead, what we mean is kind of the minimum level you have to hit in order to even just participate in the discussion in kind of a meaningful way.
Huh?
All right, I made it to 20, which was the minimum, but it still puts me 2 levels short, obviously, of what the maximum was for that range. Now, episode 3 has been completed, and we set the level caps for episode 4. So the Drop Dead now is level 24. The minimum is 26. The max is 28. So that puts me... it's not so bad. Four levels short of the Drop Dead. What I really want to hit is at least the minimum. So I've got basically a week and a half at this point to get 6 levels. Now, it sounds easy enough, but in reality, it's not. And there's a couple reasons it's not. First of all, I'm not using a standing stone that buffs my leveling, like a guardian stone, right? The other is that I got to divide my playtime. I'm also doing a story called Barbarian, and I need time to do that. So I've got certain evenings of the week that are set aside for Unbound, and certain evenings that are set aside for doing Barbarian stuff. And so the jury is still out on whether or not the time I've set aside is going to be enough for me to hit the levels. We'll have to see. And also, I do not fast travel, so it's not like I'm going very quickly from objective to objective and doing all the sorts of heavy content that would have you leveling quickly. I'm not doing that, so that's another part of it. Plus, we've also got Goldier, who, although we get some synergy going with him from time to time, he also affects our ability to level. So that becomes an issue as well. That's all right. Now, we're going to pick this Dragon's Tongue. We're picking a lot of Dragon's Tongue. Because one of the things that that Raiden does is he makes a tea called 10 Dragons Tea. And the 10 Dragons Tea is something that is a ritual tea. It is something that he will use periodically when he's praying to RK. So and I think it takes whoa. That's the first dragon we've seen. There's no reason to fight it at this point. But I think to Raiden it would be like breathtaking to look upon, right? Look at him, he's like, you ever seen a dragon? Dude. Yeah, I know. Anyway, it takes, not surprisingly, 10 blossoms. Ten blossoms to create one flagon of tea. Ah. So many pelts we're bypassing here. But I'm bypassing them on purpose. For role-playing purposes, I'm thinking that Raiden just really sees the urgency of getting back to Isran with news of what he's learned is going to override a lot of other things that he might do if he was just able to kind of do things at his own pace. So it's about getting busy. Now, the sword-wielding animation, I am going to mention where that comes from. It comes from Finis, PCEA2. It's one of the packages that is available in that mod. There are things about it I don't like, but I use it anyway because there are more things about it I do like. And I think one of the things about this character is he's supposed to be somebody who's a swordsman, someone who's been trained, at least to some degree, in the art of sword song. So I needed to have some way for him to just have a unique combat style that sort of made me feel like he was set apart from the people around him. That was one way to do it. It's not bad. It's not bad. There are some movements or some animations in it that make it a little bit awkward for certain maneuvers, like charging power attacks and stuff like that, that I'm still learning to deal with. But for my purposes, the pros outweigh the cons. What did I just drop? Blind Eye Bandit. Ooh, I'm taking that. Let us continue, Gold Deer. All right.
Looky here. Looks like we got ourselves a key.
It's been a while since I got any further than this through the Dawnguard quest line. So this will be fun. I think for me, it's been long enough that there's some details that I've forgotten. I get the gist of it. I have memories of some of the places and so forth. Okay, hold now. Hang on. All right, I have retrieved my 10-sided dice. It's time to start rolling here. Now remember, I brought this up very briefly in the last episode, this idea, this concept of dark intent. If you want to know more about dark intent and you want to know more about the play rules specific to this character, you can check out the blog posts. They are linked right from the homepage on CharacterCrusade.com. Essentially, what dark intent is that he's got an innate ability to sense when there's some form of dark intent going on around him. And what I mean by that is when there's something like undead present or necromancy at play or something having to do with undead or necromancy, generally speaking. He can sense that, but it's not infallible. So when he first passes a location, I give him a 10% chance to figure out if he can sense it. And then each time he passes that location after that, he gains an additional 10%. So we're going to roll here because we know that up the trail here, Lua Alskaven and her crew are doing something. All right, and I rolled a 34, so he didn't sense anything, okay? So we move on. Now, if he does sense something, that doesn't necessarily mean that as a player, I'm obligating myself to go and take care of it. Again, as I've said before, he's not a crusader. However, he's definitely going to be curious, and he's going to likely investigate. All right, let our follower take care of that. So one of the restrictions that I've made on this character is that I'm kind of steering him away from becoming a heavy range weapon user or range spell user, because I want to focus on other stuff, and that's kind of what I plan on using my follower for. That's going to be Goldir's job. There you go. Come on, get it done. Okay, we got it done. So that's the plan. And in the next episode, what I will do is, in the next episode, I'll give you a detailed rundown of my play rules for Raiden, so we can get caught up on that, because there are quite a few of them, and I am constantly kind of tweaking them or adding to them, removing things from them. Very good. All right. So my plan here is that I am recording episodes of the Unbound Let's Play 2 nights a week. Now, typically that's going to be either Monday night, Tuesday night, or Friday night, some combination of those. So you can expect to see maybe 1 or 2 episodes a week. I don't have a specific release schedule I'm trying to stick to with that, but I do have certain recording days. And then on the weekends is when I record Barbarian stuff. So that's kind of how that works. All right, that is Greenwall, right? Let's head up this way. All right, so in the next episode, we're going to cover some of those play rules. We're also going to head back to Fort Dawnguard. We're going to get Isran caught up on what's going on and then figure out what the next stage of our mission is. That is the plan. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode, folks. You've been watching Unbound Workshop. Thanks for checking it out. If you'd like to get involved and play along with us, check out the unbound.charactercrusade.com website for all the current play rules. Figure out how to get yourself involved. You can start at any time. Obviously, the content we're producing here is timeless, so you can follow along with it at your own pace whenever you want to. You can join the discussion with other players who are also participating in this by joining our Discord community at discord.charactercrusade.com. You can find Character Crusade Unbound podcast on iTunes and YouTube. You're going to find links to those on the website also. And we also live stream all of our episodes. If you check out the website, you'll find an updated schedule there that has all of our episode dates and times, live stream dates and times posted through through all of April and most of May of 2018. So check that out and join us. We hope to see you. Thank you very much. What?
Don't make me tell you again. Get out of here.
What's your problem, dude?
Move along. Move along.
Wow. Hostile. All right, let's go.